glad to have everybody. And before we get started, or I guess getting started, let me just say that in a sense what we're doing today is picking up on what we've been doing for the last several years. And we're going to dig deeply into two topics that we haven't previously dealt with quite so much, a navigation system and collaborations. And I'll get into that a little bit later, of the vision that we came up with last year. This is what we want to do and what we keep deadly in front of us, essentially. That we prepare all youth, independent of their background, essentially, for to persist and complete in college, or secondary of some sort, post-secondary. I mean, that's really where we need to begin. We may not have K-12 solved, but grad rates have gone way up in the last 20 years, right? They're up around 84% now, up from 70% where they stayed flat for 30 years. So, for whatever reason, we're doing well. We know we've got a lot more to do, but relatively well. But now college, when we get into that, we've got real problems in many, especially community colleges. And they're all over the map. You know, some community colleges are graduating 6 to 9% of their entrants. Some are up in the 60s. It's really highly variable. And when we look at the workplace, well, we've got what? Almost full employment right now at 3.7% approximately. But there's a question of whether there's a good match with the skills kids are bringing to the workplace and what employers need. So we've got these big questions on the table in front of us. And then there's that third elephant in the room, which is how do we get all the sectors to talk with each other? And I think as I talked with all of you in the beginning, as I went around the room, I mean, it's that talking together productively that is one of the big challenges in front of all of us. And to a large extent, that's what we will be talking about today. And I'll refresh, Amanda and Greg are the wonderful authors of this wonderful graphic. You've seen it before, except there's a new circle in it, the navigation system. And that's something we'll be talking about. Much of our conversations for the last year, 2 years, have focused on the EWS 2.0, early warning systems, and then taking them to the next level. And we started with the ABCs, and we explored, we didn't really reach conclusions, I think, just where we take them from there. Many people in this room are experimenting with that. The two main areas, I would say, were social emotional learning and college and career readiness that we somewhat set to the side. Social emotional learning, there was a general consensus last year that everybody was fascinated by it and thought we needed to do something with it. And there was pretty much agreement, unless anybody in the room disagrees with me, that it was very hard to measure. Other than perhaps the time-consuming surveys, which may not work for everybody. Is that a fair statement? And that we recommended using school climate surveys essentially as a proxy for the individual approach. Does that add up to all your memories? Okay. Well, now we're moving on because there became a question, and we called it a navigation system, but it is how do we prepare students in school to embark on the world beyond them, essentially? What are all the things they need to do? And maybe it starts in 6th grade, maybe it starts a little earlier. I'm curious if anybody had time to read the navigation system document we circulated before you came. Okay, well good. Well, because we're going to come back to it. in some detail in just a few minutes. Then, there's the question of collaborations, because an early warning system essentially takes place within a school, right? School or district. You can collect attendance, behavior, and course passing information within school walls. Once you start looking at post-secondary, you are of necessity really going beyond school results. No, unless you are talking with a college or university or your employers, you may not know what's on out there. So that will in many ways be the focus of the second part of our day today. And we also emailed you collaboration, which I hope you had time to read, because we want your input on, are we saying things right? Are we saying them wrong? Are there things we could add, subtract, multiply, and modify? Okay? That's the outline for today, effectively. Any questions, comments, thoughts? You're all very quiet this morning.
So I'm actually curious about the navigation system document. There was 4 guideposts in there. Is there like any implicit or maybe explicit sort of prioritization as we think about the data part? Because it's actually really comprehensive and more. So what made you collect, how you collect it, how you analyze it, all those details depends on which part of that you want us to look at, or you think we need to look at all of it?
I'm thinking all of it.
Just wanted the frame.
This is a very fair and valuable comment and question, because what Bob and I realized, and incidentally, he sends his greetings, and he's somewhere off on the other side of the country, if I remember correctly, and he could not be here today. That what we are proposing is very overwhelming, that's the way to put it. And that's why, as we get later in the day, and we talk about pilots, we're talking about pulling off little pieces, as you were, and starting with that. Keep the whole picture in mind, but where do you want to start? And that begins with what are your top priorities in your community and your existing relationship. Where can you go and experience success rather than thinking, oh my goodness, we can't do 50 things at once. So you want to choose carefully. And any insights you all have about where priorities should be placed, be wonderful. We hope those emerge during the day. So let's see what's next. We are talking about an internal theory of action, essentially. This isn't the external one. But first, we talked about the framework for past. That was last year. Yet, what is a valid indicator, what's valid action, and so forth. What are the characteristics we want to look at, and what are the support mechanisms that are needed for them, i.e. teams and leadership, and prioritization within the district. Then we asked groups of people in the room, as I said, to snip off a part of a branch and undertake a pilot. And the pilot was not to be something new so much as your closer look at a problem or practice that was related to all of this. From this, what we're hoping, or intending, I should say, is that in the course of this year, we can come up with some models to answer your question, narrowing it down a little bit. What is important to us? And then as year and the future, implementing some pieces of this. And all the while getting feedback. Because we want to keep on continuously improving what we're doing. I'm curious about your comments on this.
That makes sense when you look at the fund.
Okay. Yes, Jeff.
I'm curious, it has to do with just kind of being curious about how your work teams interact in between these meetings, and specifically how they interact with the pilots. What's the nature of those relationships, and how do you facilitate the learning from and with and for the pilot sites?
What I would say currently is that the pilots are really just identifying what they want to do now. Some of the questions you raised were, what are the decisions that have to be made? How long does it take those decisions to be made? And then, what are you doing? And I think one of the initial learnings has been that it takes a long time to make decisions. Takes a long time to identify a problem, first of all, and then to make a decision when you have a group of collaborators.
And agreeing on the problem.
And agreeing on what the problem is and then what the steps that will be taken are. So that, if you want to document it, I have little notebooks where I keep notes. What has become also clear, I would say, is that our initial thought was that folks would essentially document for themselves some of the steps. And I think what is becoming evident, I shouldn't say I think, I know, what is becoming evident is that what we should do is have some structured interviews with people who choose to do pilots. Maybe every 6 weeks, maybe every 8 weeks. And had here's truly been a little bit ahead of the ballgame, we would have had those structured interview templates today, but we don't. But that is, I think, the approach, that we will come up with those very shortly and then set up a schedule with everybody who chooses to pilot something and interview you.
How many pilots do we have now?
Oh, well, there were about 20 folks who expressed interest. I would say, I think about 5 maybe, which is a much more doable number and much more learnable number. It could be 7 or 8, could maybe even be 10, but it's not going to be the whole 20. I have had a couple of folks say, this is just too much. We are already trying to do too much, and we can't do any more. But do come visit sometime or give us a call. So, we accomplish that goal, I think. And I think virtually everybody is looking at some facet of the K-12 university college transition. Not entirely. There's some other very interesting things, and some people are getting very particular in the sense that, for instance, Riverside County in California has an interesting structure where each county has an office of education. There are about 1,000 1,000 districts in California, plus or minus 10, and there are, I think, 57 county offices. So they have some oversight responsibilities, and with their new funding formula, have a lot more. So what they have already settled that they want to look at, they want to do transcript analysis, which they've done, but because California has a quite rigorous, the A through G requirements for the Cal States and the UC system, and those are the required academic courses, but it somehow has taken I would say it's codified more in California than elsewhere. They want to start looking at their kids' transcripts very early. Are they on target to graduate with an fulfilling age, A through G? They could even take it back to middle school. That part they haven't decided, but it's definitely in high school. They've got 5 to 7 districts that are going to work with them very closely on that. So, they chose something that mattered to them. It mattered to their students, and they had a very clear idea what they wanted to do. So that's the kind of paring it down approach that I think will be the one that works. And now, ma'am, introduce yourself.
I am Jackie Lumberg. I'm with the Governor's Office of Student Achievement in Georgia, and I run the state's P20W system. And so We have a lot of dashboards that come out of there that affect policy, so I'm always interested in seeing what new dashboards we can bring out.
Well, welcome, we're glad to have you. And for those of you who don't know, Georgia has a unique structure, I think. Governor's Office of Student Achievement here, that came out about 20 years ago, and the Georgia Department of Education. And now they work very closely together, if I am correct. There was a time when they did not work very closely together, when they were founded by a governor who got fed up with various things that were going on in the state. So,
Joanna, that's a
yes.
question that I have when you talk about these pilots. And I thought when you threw it out there, it does sound very interesting to be a pilot, but at the same time, when you have to bring so many people to the table and they have to agree, I mean, we can't get the high school district to talk to the community college, to talk to the
Right.
school board, to talk, all the people that would have to say yes. How do you do that?
well, that's something I hope everybody can answer or discuss in the course of the day. That's a huge problem and a huge challenge. And I know New Hampshire faces that very much as they think, what do they want to do? Because when they first joined us last year in May, they announced, or shared, not announced, that the big problem in the state was a graying workforce. And how do you go from that big problem down to a little one or a smaller one that you can grasp? And that, but the essential thing in that, to me, goes back to how do you make decisions? How do you decide? And that's what we would like to be able to share with other people. If you carve out these areas of interest, then where do you go from there? So we'll leave that on the table. It's a great question. And now, to the left of me, you just joined us.
Oh, yes, apologies. Heather Nolan, I'm with Baltimore City Public Schools as the Director of Knowledge Management.
Well, we're delighted to have you. Thank you, sir. That's okay. Any more, I don't know that I answered your question satisfactorily.
Me?
Yes.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's interesting though, because that's the challenge that we face in our national center, because we're partially funded by RS3, the Rehabilitation Services Administration, and Office of Special Ed Programs. And so the whole requirement is that you have a team that's, and I think you all, the data center does the same, kind of has the same issues, but you have to have these partners in order to work with us, and part of what we do is just first bringing people together, like in the Delaware group that I mentioned, and then going through a really structured process. And that made me think back, years ago, I was the superintendent of administrative affairs for the transit system in Gainesville, Florida, which served the university, the community college, the city, the county, all the nonprofits, and that is literally was the challenge, was everybody had to pay for that system. And so how did we ever put together a joint funding package, because it served everybody, but that was, so it's still the same challenge. And again, it was through somebody taking the lead. I mean, somebody has to take the lead, but then you have to identify who those key partners are. And don't let people, whatever, when you give it away, it's got to be the leadership. So I think that's part of it as well. So you got to have that leadership.
So far, one of the things that's emerging is the absolute need for a leader. And I will just also share with you the other place we have, well, several other places, the Education Collaborative is working on this, is West Georgia. There's an area of 5 counties, 7 districts. They've had a long-standing relationship in the community for one district, a county district and a city district, all in the same county. That's gone back about 20 years. They have existing, friendships, partnerships, they all know each other. It's not, there are a total of about 70,000 kids in the 5 districts. But, so they have that base on which to grow. And they know that. The business people in that case have been talking for years to the school system. Now, though, university system out there, a regional university, is really interested in stepping up the flow of graduates into and through it. And they work with the technical college system, which in Georgia, technical college is effectively a community college. Not effectively, it is. And the two have been recruiting together. So they're looking at expanding the collaborative to now include other districts beyond their tight-knit ones. And they're relying on what are long-standing relationships in the business community to expand outward. And then new relationships between the two university college systems, who are all serving essentially the same group of kids. So, they're building on a core, and that is something to think about. What are the cores that are around you that can be built on, so you're not,
Starting from scratch.
starting from scratch, yeah. So I think many people have those. And so it becomes a question of where you kind of dig in.
But what you've described is a work in progress, and that's where virtually everybody is. There are a few, like the West Georgia model, like Riverside County, California, and some others that maybe are a step or two ahead of everybody, but everybody's kind of where you are, I think. And that's the whole idea it's astonishing to me that, we have these systems in place and that, a high school may be down the street from a community college or something, and yet no one really knows what happens at the other place or, how kids are gonna do and that sort of thing when they get there. Anyway, that's the whole issue. But everybody.
Very glad to bring it up.
Inter-organizational and intra-organizational,
Absolutely.
both.
It's a huge change.
Now we're already 10 minutes behind, so.
Sorry.
This is good. No. It's a good conversation, and I think the real point of the day is to have good conversations. I just wanted to quick outline it. We're going to segue into breaking up into small groups and talking about the navigation system. Take a brief break, then we're going to continue talking about the navigation system and segue into something we've talked about as we think about teaching all of this to other people, how to. We've got a whole lot of lists of them, but we've got one sample for you to consider. Then we'll have lunch, cookies and beer. Then we'll talk about collaborations, getting at what you have all been bringing up. And last of all, we'll talk about the idea of pilots in some more depth. And some of the folks who are here will share those with us. So the agenda does have some of the key guiding questions we hope you'll consider in your groups. So we all set. I think we could just go around the room, number off, 1, 2, 3, 4.